doing a mindset chat. I usually do the blogging stuff, as you guys know, at bloggingparadise.com. Lighting's not the best here, but we'll go with what we can. Over here. Let's see. Well, whatever. Who cares? You guys get the drill. I just wanted to take a few moments as you hear Stanley's booming bark outside. We're in rural Virginia, doing a house sit for a little bit longer. And one of the dogs we're caring for is a monstrously sized St. Bernard Newfoundland. There he goes again. Great Pyrenees mix. And you hear his booming barks at night. That's the Pyrenees in him for sure. Great Pyrenees. So, guys, the world is impossible. You don't want it. Now, this, at first glance, egoically, of course, but to most of our minds, it may sound nuts. There's a big boy. And I'll just be going on in the background because when you're in rural Virginia, living on top of a hill for a little bit, doing a house sit, this is the drill. A lot of critters out there. So, the world's impossible. You don't want it. And I would add, it needs to be forgiven for peace of mind. You'll notice, I love the analogy. I heard David Hoffmeister from A Course in Miracles fame discuss this and use this analogy. And my wife Kelly used it as well, and it's very descriptive. The world, as you know it, or just the world, is like the game Whack-A-Mole. So you knock one mole down and then another pops up, except when you're looking at the world, a lot of times it appears that 5 other moles pop up and then you whack them down and then 10 pop up. And that's because the world is change. It's entropy. It's in a constant state of flux and it erodes. Like you're looking at this video. And one reason why you have to forgive the world and why I'm forgiving it in my mind and why you want to forgive it in your mind would be that one of the chief reason is that let's not even get into the fact that it's an illusion and that the only reality is love, God, eternity, light, all these truths that are just completely beyond the world, doesn't even recognize this world. But look at something as simple as this body. It's impossible. I will take this body, who I really am, and same with you guys, you're beyond it all just like me. We're in reality spirit. That's the truth. But in the world, you look at this body, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to put it aside. Now, the world, because it's impossible, calls that death. And last weekend, my mother passed on, and I was at her wake and at her funeral, the pallbearer. And I'm saying this on a worldly level. My mother passed on. I was at her wake, her funeral. And it was after 12 years of worldly extended sickness of the world. But unless you really think about this impossibility and you start to forgive it in your mind and look past it, and as Jesus says in the Course in Miracles, be a passerby, and how he was in the world, the passerby, you really don't want the world. And you don't want it because it's impossible and it has to be forgiven if you want peace of mind. Because the more you forgive the world, you won't look towards it. You don't want it. You won't look towards it for solutions because they're impossible. You'll never get it. It's like En Vogue. No, you're never going to get it, right? This is something we know, we've heard of. Again and again from the ascended masters, enlightened beings, seers, the teachers. It's impossible. You don't want it. So when you think you want something in the world, like body-wise, it's impossible because I'm going to put this aside. The world will call it death. You will too. All of us will. Yet, You're putting it aside. You get it? See, the more you forgive the world and you see that it's impossible, you begin to go deeper into your mind to realize that it's you who you truly are, spirit, through infinite mind, infinite with no limits, that takes the body and puts it aside. You begin to make these little tiny realizations, and just it's like a glimmer of what seems to be hope, but it's a glimmer of truth poking through, that when you go into your mind and you're like, oh man, let me get into A Course in Miracles. Let me get into meditating more. Let me start going on that path. You realize that you really don't want anything in the world because this world's impossible. Change, flux, death. One problem, solve one problem, doing it through the world, not through your mind, but doing it through the world, trying to change the world. That's the biggest mistake, the biggest misunderstanding, because the more you try to change it, the more problems you create, because it's an illusion. You can't change what isn't real. You can't change an illusion because it's not real. If you try to, you'll just go deeper into the illusion. Happens with every election, happens with the government, happens with worldly laws. Happens when you're born. You're this infinite being, so we'll say born in the world, but you're an infinite being. You're forever. You're never born. You're not born, you don't die. Never born, never die. You're eternal as spirit. And in your mind, you begin to make these little, let's say, glimmers of realization when you stop looking to the world and you stop wanting it and you start forgiving it. And the forgiveness, it's not the worldly definition that you're used to. Letting someone go, being the better person. That crap is still in the world because it's judgment and duality. And I'm learning this with you guys. It's seeing that it's an illusion created by the ego. And you know it has to be created by the ego because God's eternal. Reality is eternal. So anything that dies is not real. Eternal can't create time. It logically, using divine logic or even simple logic, it can't. It doesn't make any sense when you really think it through. But you have to be careful because the ego and you and I, it'll keep running back and saying, no, the world is possible and I want this out of it. I want that out of it. The more you forgive it, you'll see you'll never get an answer there, but you'll always get answers. Not even so much answers. You'll get the truth when you keep going back into your mind and seeing that this world's transitory, but you're an eternal spirit. You put the body aside, and there's parts of us to go like, oh my God, I'm the body. I'm so terrified. But then you're like, hold on a second. All these wise beings say you put it aside, then who you are is not the body. So it's not cause for being terrified or afraid when what the world calls death. When you put it aside, you keep going. And you and I, we've seen these videos. If you haven't, you see the near-death experience, which is funny, obviously. Spirit can't die. It's never born. It's eternal. Yet, of course, we'll call it that. And you hear these people say, or these minds ultimately say again and again, you can't die. You're pressed out of your body. They talk about being pressed out of the body. Then you're observing it. Well, who was observing it? Was it the body? No, because it was watching the body. That's mind. That's all you are. That's all we all are in oneness. And ultimately, we're all one thought in the mind of God. That's the only reality. This whole other world, or the world, call it that, it's nut job. It's Psychoville. I mean, do you need to look far? Do you need to look hard into the illusion to see that it's, I've heard terms psychoplanet, hell realm, madhouse. And you see people keep looking to the world and not God, not the Holy Spirit or Jesus or whatever. The name doesn't matter as much as just that small, I'm going to say small, still voice, but that voice, that intuition, call it your gut, that's always leading you towards love through the illusion of fear, to forgive it, to see that, man, this world's impossible. You think you get an answer, and then you create so many more worldly problems. But, and this is not a depressing presentation, guys. This is not about we're going to be in hell forever. No. The more you forgive the world and you don't want it, and you see you're not going to get answers there, you let it go. You forgive it in your mind, And then that's where the magic, quote unquote, it's not magic, world's magic, according to Course, Jesus. That's the magic. But that's where you start hearing the Holy Spirit's voice, which is only love and only peace. So you will feel better and better in your mind and more at peace. You'll have more fun and you'll be helping people and serving. And it will just be a playful experience amidst the illusions of what appears to be chaos and madness and impossibility. So you still may see that illusion, but you'll be happy in your mind and you'll get the kingdom of heaven is within. Bingo. You have peace in your mind. That's what you'll see. God's peace amidst wars, the illusion of wars, amidst the illusion of chaos, amidst the illusion of distraction. And you'll also begin to see, man, there's nothing in this world that I want. You don't want it. It's impossible. It's not possible. And you'll also see other minds, yours included, mine included, that will keep running back to the world for answers. A man-made law, any law that's not God's, and God's law is pure eternal love. Okay. Any man-made law, any government, any politician, anything in the world, family member, special relationships. Now, this is the trouble. This is where the ego gets really clever, creates special relationships with family members or friends, and you're not going to get the answer there. You and I have experienced it. Imagine if on a certain level you appear to really get along with a family member and then they're not there. Then the impossibility comes up, then the depression, the anger, the rage. They could be not there because you're traveling. It could be not there because they put their body aside, worldly death. And you'll see, shoot, it has to be love. It has to be forgiven. But then when it's forgiven and you have peace of mind, if the body's there, like my mom, her body's not here. It appeared to be broken for a decade, especially for the past 6 years. I'll say it appeared to be completely broken. I did not, and I had to forgive a lot and step into the fear and the rage. Oh no, trust me, I had to step into a lot of expression sessions, guys, to have this perspective in my mind. That's the point. But I stepped into my mind to forgive a lot of the guilt, the grief, the rage that was in the unconscious, my unconscious, concerning the world in general, my mom, my projections, but my mother, her body, the body. And that's what helped me have this perspective now, or at the funeral, or at the wake. In my mind, since I had greater peace and I saw the truth, the body in my mind, like the Holy Spirit was reminding me, that body's not her. She's eternal spirit. She's okay. The body's not her, so you're not missing anything. You're not losing anything. Your body's not you. Saying to me, Spirit. And the people watching or listening, on YouTube or Wisdom, your body's not you. It's impossible. You're going to put it aside. It's the world of entropy. If you really want to get deep, and this is the stuff, this is where you go to see that it's impossible, when you realize you really don't want it and you want to forgive it and have peace of mind, to see the illusion, to see the love deeper below these symbols, these bodies, to see the light, to feel good, to have peace of mind, just be independent of the world, just to be in the world but not of it. Learn more about quantum physics. Start diving in. Watch a movie called What the Bleep Do We Know? And you'll learn that quantum physics has uncovered what spiritual masters have been teaching for a long, long time. There's nothing out there. We're dreaming it. We're imagining it. So do you want to put your faith, do you want to put your hope, your dreams, your happiness, your freedom in a dream that you're imagining? Or would you rather put it in the Christ, in your Christ mind, in God, in love, in eternity, so you could see through the illusion? That's where all these beings that are in bliss, Sri Ramana Maharshi, Yogananda, Christ, Buddha, Babaji, Sri Teshwar, bliss, ascended masters, they were in bliss because they saw that it's not real. We're all one in spirit. That's the reality. This world, no. So they have that. They saw through it. Compassion for the minds that are learning. But quantum physics, there's nothing out there. You're imagining the density, imagining the bodies, you're dreaming them. They seem very real because you're dreaming that. They appear to be really real because you're dreaming it. But there's nothing, it's almost all space. You're looking at this body on a phone, that's space that you're dreaming. You're looking, and it seems to the ego like a total mind screw. It just seems like crazy people talk until you see how believing and trusting in that crazy person world has caused you suffering, pain. And it's like the Course, and it's something I'm still getting deeper in mind to understand, but pain and pleasure are the same. David Hoffmeister, pain and pleasure are the same. He says pleasure. I like how he says it, or a Midwestern accent. But it appears that they're different. But you'll see they come affixed. So you may have some pleasure, pain's coming. They're really the same. Yet, the more you forgive the world, and running back to it, it's impossible. It's impossible. Forgive it. In your mind, look past it, and you see you really don't want it, then you'll feel peace in your mind amidst the world. And you'll work with the symbols of the world. It's not to say you're going to go live in a shack or a hovel, because those are where your forgiveness lessons are at. That's the key. You don't run away from it. You listen to your intuition, listen to Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, guidance, call it Chuck. Holy Spirit doesn't care, knows this is all an illusion. And that's where you gain the intuitive guidance. Like for me to create this YouTube live and this wisdom live chat, just allowing more of the spirit to come through and feel good and have fun. That's the point. That's what we're working with here. Feeling good, having fun, being playful. That's it. And the more you forgive the world and you don't look to the world, but you look within, you look into your own mind and you start listening more to spirit, to love, to fun, that's when things pop. So you might be amidst the illusion of a lot of craziness and a lot of minds that are looking to the world, but you'll be completely unaffected because you'll see that it's not real. Quantum physics, there's nothing out there. Of course, right now in this moment, it doesn't appear to have gone mainstream because there's a lot of certain factions in the world that would not really do too well if there was nothing out there. If more people became aware of that. But we'll get there, of course. We have eternity. Don't worry about it. There's a lot of rage there. A lot of ego rage coming up. And that's okay. Got to be felt and forgiven. Of course, if you bury it down out of awareness, you push it down, then you'll scramble back to the world more, dive into more impossibility, crave the world, and you'll have more problems, more nightmares, more madness. Doesn't make any sense, guys. So I think dinner's coming up, even though nothing's out there. And that's the key too, guys. When you come across something like quantum physics and what the bleep do we know, and you see that they're uncovering what spiritual masters like Jesus Christ and Buddha, what they've known for the longest time. I'm the dreamer of the dream. Ultimately, the Christ mind, spirit is. We're all a thought in the mind of God. This is stuff that you just little glimpses. There's nothing out there. It's all space. Oh, thanks, babe. Or nothing's ever, quantum physics, nothing's ever touched. When these two atoms, whatever it is, appear to get closer, even if you're that, like I'm imagining that. As the atoms are pushing away from each other. This is at the quantum level, at these, like the smallest that we detectable. So it's all space and nothing's ever touched. When you hear that, you're like, what? I'm imagining? No way. So this is little things we just take in bite-sized pieces. But the more you step into it, even though the ego will say, absolutely not, you idiot, you look stupid, this is crazy people talk, the world is, you'll get it. And eventually you'll become so fed up with listening to the ego and its fear and division and rage and all these problems in the world, and you won't want the world, like outright. like across the board. It'll just be a little less and less like, wow, I really don't want this. I really don't want the news. I don't want politics. I don't want any of that. You'll still be functioning in the world. And this is not an invitation to be a recluse or to fight. Absolutely not. It's just you forgive it in your mind. And you start seeing where you're scrambling back to the world, scurrying back to the world. Money, relationship, and we all do it. But when you forgive it more, then you're like, oh, now I get it. And the Holy Spirit knows that you believe in the symbol of money and in relationships, and you like houses, to sleep in a house instead of out in the back. Although you have to see where your guidance is. It sends Kelly and I house sits and sends money and all this other stuff because we believe in these symbols still, even though nothing's out there. It's gradual. But remember, the world's impossible. You don't want it. Forgive it, guys. It's so much more. And I'm just seeing slowly and steadily such a peaceful journey, such a fun journey. And stuff comes up, some expression or some intense emotions, but then you see it's all in your mind, literally. All right, love you guys. I'm going to roll. Later, YouTube. Yep. And later, wisdom. Love you guys.